My name is Frank Williams, and I am 34 years old. What should have been a joyful celebration for my daughter Emma's 8th birthday turned into a nightmare that exposed decades of family favoritism. I had always suspected my father valued my siblings more, but nothing prepared me for him publicly declaring my little girl not family. The look in Emma's eyes shattered my heart into a million pieces. Before I continue this painful story, I would love to know where you are watching from. Please hit like and subscribe if you have ever had to stand up for someone you love against your own family. Growing up in the Williams household was like living in a monarchy, where my father Harold was the unquestioned king. From my earliest memories, it was clear that Harold had specific expectations for his children, and somehow I never quite measured up. My sister Diane, 2 years older than me, was always his favorite. As the only daughter, she received special treatment, from expensive dance lessons to her own car at 16. My brother Robert, 4 years my senior, ranked second in the hierarchy as the firstborn son who dutifully followed our father into the family construction business. Then there was me, the youngest, the one who dared to have my own dreams. While Robert shadowed Dad at building sites from age 12, I was drawn to computers and technology. My mother Martha, a soft-spoken woman who never challenged Harold, would occasionally sneak me books on programming when Dad was working late. "Just do not tell your father," she would whisper, as if my interests were some shameful secret. High school brought the first major clash with Harold. When I joined the computer club instead of football, he refused to attend any of my academic competitions. "Playing with computers is a hobby, not a career," he declared at dinner one night, while praising Robert for securing his first construction contract. That same evening, he handed Diane a check for her first car, even though she had barely passed her driver's test. I received nothing but a lecture on how I needed to grow up and get serious. Despite his disapproval, I maintained excellent grades and earned a scholarship to study computer science at a prestigious university. The day my acceptance letter arrived, Harold merely grunted, "At least it will not cost me anything." Martha hugged me later in private, but never in front of him. College brought freedom and validation. My programming skills earned me internships that my peers envied. I met Rebecca during my junior year in a data analytics class. Brilliant, kind, and independent, she understood my complicated relationship with my family and never pressured me to repair what seemed irreparable. After graduation, Rebecca and I both landed great jobs in IT consulting. We married when I was 25, and Emma came along a year later. Those first months with our daughter were magical. Rebecca and I agreed that Emma would never experience the conditional love I had grown up with. Unfortunately, Harold and Martha maintained their pattern of favoritism with the next generation. While they showered Diane's children, Lily and Mason, with expensive gifts and weekend trips, and doted on Robert's kids, Tyler and Zoe, with similar generosity, Emma received only token presents on holidays. At family gatherings, my parents would gush over my nieces and nephews while barely acknowledging Emma's presence. When Emma was 4, Rebecca and I divorced. Unlike the bitter battles that characterized my parents' friends' divorces, we remained amicable, committed to co-parenting our daughter with love and respect. We agreed on joint custody, with Emma spending weekdays with me and weekends with Rebecca, who had relocated 30 minutes away for a career opportunity. The divorce seemed to validate Harold's perception of my failures. "Another thing you could not make work," he commented when I told him about the separation. His disappointment was palpable, though he had never made any effort to welcome Rebecca into the family. Despite the distance from my family, I ironically became their financial safety net. When Diane's husband Michael lost his job after the financial crisis, I helped them make payments on their luxury SUV. The vehicle remained in my name since their credit was destroyed. When Robert faced a cash flow problem with his portion of the business, I covered 3 months of his mortgage. And when my parents wanted to renovate their vacation home in Florida, I paid for the contractors since Harold insisted on upgrades they could not actually afford. My own financial situation was comfortable but not extravagant. I lived in a modest 4-bedroom house in a good school district, drove a practical sedan, and focused on saving for Emma's future. My consulting business had grown steadily, allowing me to be generous with family while maintaining my independence. Emma, meanwhile, grew into a thoughtful, bright child who somehow remained hopeful about her grandparents' affection. "Maybe Grandpa does not know what I like," she suggested once after receiving a generic birthday card while her cousins got tablets and gaming consoles. Her optimism broke my heart because I knew better. As Emma's 8th birthday approached, she asked if we could invite the whole family. "I want to show Grandpa and Grandma my science project that won at school," she said, eyes bright with hope. I agreed, despite my misgivings. Maybe this time would be different. Maybe seeing her accomplishments would finally open their eyes to the wonderful person she was becoming. Little did I know that this birthday would become the breaking point that would forever change our family dynamic. The morning of Emma's birthday dawned bright and clear, a perfect Saturday in May for the backyard party we had planned. Emma woke me at 6:30, too excited to sleep anymore. "Dad, do you think Grandpa will like the decorations?" she asked, bouncing on the edge of my bed. We had spent the previous evening hanging streamers and setting up a space-themed party area to match Emma's current fascination with astronomy. "He will be impressed for sure," I said, trying to match her enthusiasm while managing my own expectations. Harold had attended exactly 2 of Emma's previous birthday celebrations, both times staying less than 30 minutes. After breakfast, we finished the preparations. I set up the rented tables and chairs in the backyard, while Emma carefully arranged the solar system centerpieces she had made herself. Each planet was constructed from papier-mâché and painted with remarkable detail for an 8-year-old. "Mercury is closest to the sun," she explained to me for perhaps the 20th time, but I listened as if it were the first, loving her passion for learning. This was the project she wanted to show her grandparents, a scale model of the solar system that had earned her first place in the science fair. By 11, everything was ready. The cake, a blue and purple galaxy design with edible glitter stars, sat in the refrigerator. Party favors, small telescopes for each child, were arranged on a table. The food, simple but plentiful, was prepared and waiting. Emma's friends were scheduled to arrive at noon, with family expected at 1. "When will Lily and Mason get here?" Emma asked, referring to her cousins. "Do you think they will want to look through my telescope?" I hesitated. "They should be here after your friends arrive, and I am sure they will love your telescope." The truth was that Diane's children had made their disdain for Emma quite clear at previous gatherings, but Emma remained determined to connect with them. At 11:45, the doorbell rang. It was Patricia, my friend and colleague, arriving early to help. She took one look at my face and gave me a reassuring pat on the shoulder. "Family stress showing already?" she asked quietly, while Emma ran to change into her party dress. "They have not even arrived yet, and I am already tense," I admitted. Patricia, who had witnessed several Williams family gatherings, nodded understandingly. "Just focus on Emma having a good time with her friends. The rest is noise." By noon, 6 of Emma's schoolmates had arrived with their parents. The kids immediately gravitated to the backyard activities I had set up. A small bounce house, a craft table for decorating model rockets, and a beanbag toss game with planet targets. The parents, mostly familiar faces from school functions, chatted comfortably on the patio. Emma was in her element, showing her friends how to launch the model rockets with air pressure. Her face glowed with happiness as she explained the scientific principles behind the launchers. Watching her, I felt a surge of pride mixed with anxiety about the family gathering to come. At 12:30, my phone buzzed with a text from Diane. "Running late. Mason had tennis lessons. We'll be there by 1:30. No apology, just an announcement." Typical. 10 minutes later, Robert called. "Mom and Dad are riding with us. Dad had a business call that ran long. We should be there by 1:15. I relayed the information to Emma, who was checking the door every few minutes. "They are on their way, sweetheart. They will be a little late, but they are coming." Her smile faltered only slightly before she nodded. "That is okay. It gives me more time to play with my friends." Even at 8, she was learning to mask disappointment, a skill no child should have to develop so young. By 1, all 10 of her school friends had arrived, and the party was in full swing. The kids were rotating through the activities, parents were chatting over coffee, and the atmosphere was festive and relaxed. Only my own tension marred the perfect afternoon. Patricia caught my eye from across the yard and gave me a thumbs up. She had been helping supervise the craft table, and the completed model rockets were lined up to dry. "She is having a blast," she mouthed, nodding toward Emma, who was laughing as she helped a smaller child aim a beanbag. At 1:30, there was still no sign of my family. Emma was starting to cast anxious glances at the side gate where guests entered the backyard. I checked my phone again, but there were no new messages. "Maybe we should start the cake soon," suggested Rebecca, who had arrived on time and immediately jumped in to help with the activities. Though we were divorced, we remained a united front when it came to Emma. "Let's give them 15 more minutes," I said, not wanting Emma to feel the absence of half her guests during the main celebration. At 1:45, just as I was about to suggest we move forward without them, I heard the unmistakable sound of multiple car doors slamming in front of the house. Emma's face lit up. "They are here!" she exclaimed, running to the gate. I took a deep breath, put on my most welcoming smile, and prepared to greet the family that consistently broke my daughter's heart while relying on my financial support. The irony was not lost on me, but for Emma's sake, I was determined to make this work. The side gate swung open to reveal a procession of William's family members. My father Harold led the way, his imposing 6'2" frame dressed in golf attire despite the birthday invitation clearly stating this was a children's party. Behind him came my mother Martha, clutching her designer purse like a shield, her smile tight and practiced. Robert and his wife Nancy followed with their children Tyler and Zoe, both already focused on their phones. Bringing up the rear were Diane, her husband Michael, and their children Lily and Mason, all looking as if they had been inconvenienced by the invitation. We had to park all the way down the street, were Harold's first words to me, not happy birthday to Emma or even a simple hello. "You really should consider a house with a proper driveway, Frank." "Good to see you too, Dad," I replied, fighting to keep my tone neutral. "Thanks for coming. Emma has been looking forward to seeing everyone." Emma, who had been bouncing with excitement, rushed forward to hug her grandmother. "Grandma, I am so glad you came. Wait until you see my solar system project." Martha patted Emma's head awkwardly. "That is nice, dear." Her gaze slid past Emma to land on Diane's daughter, Lily. "Lily, darling, that dress is absolutely beautiful. Is that the one Grandpa bought you in New York?" Lily, a 10-year-old who had already mastered her mother's condescending smile, twirled in her clearly expensive dress. "Yes, from that boutique on Fifth Avenue. It cost almost $1,000. Emma's smile dimmed slightly, but she persevered. "Lily, Mason, I got telescopes for everyone. Do you want to see the stars tonight after cake?" Mason, 12 going on 40, rolled his eyes. "Stars are boring. Besides, we cannot stay long. Dad is taking us to the Lakers game tonight." "VIP seats," Michael added unnecessarily, slapping my father on the back. "Thanks again for those connections, Harold." My mother turned her attention to Robert's children. "Tyler, Zoe, come give Grandma a hug. Zoe, your hair looks beautiful. Did you get it done at that salon I recommended?" As the family filtered into the backyard, I noticed Emma standing slightly apart, her earlier excitement fading. I moved to her side and put my arm around her shoulders. "Want to show Grandpa your science project now?" I suggested. She looked up at me, uncertainty in her eyes. "Maybe after he has some food? He seems kind of grumpy." "Good thinking," I agreed, squeezing her shoulder reassuringly. "Let me get everyone some food, and then we can do presents and cake." The next 30 minutes were a study in family dynamics. My parents, Robert's family, and Diane's clan formed a tight cluster near the food table, while Emma's friends and their parents occupied the rest of the yard. The division was visible and uncomfortable. Patricia, ever perceptive, engineered some ice-breaking activities, but they met with limited success. When she announced a family rocket launch competition, only Tyler and Zoe reluctantly participated after significant prompting from Nancy. Lily and Mason remained glued to their phones, occasionally looking up to make disparaging comments about the babyish party. Harold made a show of checking his watch every few minutes. "What time are we doing cake? We have dinner reservations at 6. "We will do presents and cake in about 15 minutes, I assured him, suppressing my irritation at his impatience. Emma's party was scheduled until 4:30, a detail clearly noted on the invitation. As I arranged the presents on the designated table, I overheard my father talking to Robert about a new contract for the family business. "It will be worth at least $2 million, Harold was saying. "The biggest deal we have landed this year. We should celebrate with a fishing trip to the cabin next weekend. Just us men." "Sounds great," Robert replied. "Tyler's getting pretty good with a rod. It will be good male bonding time." I busied myself with the presents, trying not to dwell on the fact that I had never been invited to these fishing trips, nor had my father ever expressed interest in bonding with Emma over any activity. Nearby, Martha was fawning over Mason's recent tennis trophy while Diane detailed the exclusive summer camp her children would be attending. "It is $15,000 for 6 weeks, but the networking opportunities are worth every penny," Diane explained. "The governor's son attended last year." I caught Emma watching this exchange, her eyes wide as she tried to process the casual mention of sums that probably seemed astronomical to her 8-year-old mind. Our family was comfortable, but I had always emphasized the value of money and taught Emma that experiences and relationships mattered more than expensive possessions. "Dad," she whispered, tugging at my sleeve, "is $15,000 a lot of money?" "It is," I confirmed. "That is about half what many people earn in a whole year of working." Her brow furrowed as she processed this information. "Then why does Aunt Diane spend it on summer camp?" Before I could formulate an appropriate response, Harold's booming voice interrupted. "Frank, are those drinks non-alcoholic? Surely you have something proper for the adults?" "There is beer and wine in the cooler by the grill, Dad," I answered, pointing to the clearly visible cooler that he had walked past twice. He grunted and made his way over, helping himself to an expensive craft beer that I had purchased specifically because it was his favorite. Not that he acknowledged this consideration. As the afternoon wore on, the temperature in the backyard seemed to rise along with my blood pressure. Emma continued to make valiant efforts to engage with her cousins and grandparents, only to be repeatedly rebuffed or ignored. When she proudly showed Tyler her first-place science fair ribbon, he responded with, "Our school's science fair has actual cash prizes, not just cheap ribbons." When she offered to let Lily look through her beloved telescope, her cousin responded, "I already went to space camp last summer. This is like super basic stuff." Each rejection chipped away at Emma's confidence, and I found myself counting the minutes until the family portion of the gathering would be over. Patricia caught my eye across the yard and gave me a sympathetic look. She knew exactly what was happening, having witnessed similar scenarios before. At 3:15, I decided it was time for presents and cake, if only to move the party toward its conclusion. "Everyone gather around the present table," I announced. "Emma is going to open her gifts." As the guests assembled, I noticed with a sinking heart that my father was reaching into his jacket pocket, pulling out what looked like greeting cards or envelopes. Based on past experience, I had a feeling I knew what was coming, and my stomach knotted with dread. "Present time," Rebecca called cheerfully, guiding Emma to the chair decorated with birthday streamers at the head of the gift table. Emma sat down, her face alight with anticipation as she surveyed the colorful packages before her. Her school friends gathered close, eager to see her reactions to their carefully chosen gifts. My family, however, maintained their distance, forming a loose semicircle several feet back. Harold stood with his arms crossed, checking his watch yet again, while Martha fluttered nervously at his side. Diane and Michael were engaged in a whispered conversation, occasionally glancing toward the exit gate as if planning their escape. Only Robert and Nancy seemed to be making any effort to participate appropriately in the celebration, though their children remained absorbed in their devices. "Who wants Emma to open their present first?" I asked, trying to inject some enthusiasm into the proceedings. "Open mine," shouted Emma's best friend Abigail, pushing a sparkly blue package forward. Emma carefully unwrapped the gift to reveal a build-your-own robot kit. "This is awesome," she exclaimed, giving Abigail a hug. "We can build it together at our next sleepover." One by one, Emma opened the gifts from her friends: science books, art supplies, a star projector for her bedroom ceiling, and a beautiful journal with a space-themed cover. With each gift, she expressed genuine gratitude, often explaining to everyone why the present was perfect for her interests. As the pile of gifts from friends dwindled, Harold cleared his throat loudly. "I suppose we should do the family gifts now," he announced, as if granting a royal favor. He pulled several envelopes and small packages from his jacket and began distributing them with great ceremony. "For Lily," he declared, handing my niece an envelope and a beautifully wrapped box. "And for Mason," he continued, presenting my nephew with identical items. Lily tore open her envelope first, gasping dramatically as she pulled out the contents. $500. "Thanks, Grandpa." She immediately moved to the package, ripping away the paper to reveal the latest iPad model. "Oh my God, this is the one I wanted." Mason displayed similar excitement over his identical gifts. "Sweet, now I can get those wireless headphones." Harold beamed at their reactions before turning to Robert's children. "For Tyler and Zoe," he said, handing them their envelopes and packages. The scene repeated itself, with both children exclaiming over the generous cash gifts and brand new iPads. My parents basked in their grandchildren's appreciation, with Martha adding, "We want you to have the very best, darlings." Throughout this display, Emma sat quietly in her chair, hands folded in her lap, waiting patiently for her turn. I could see the hope in her eyes, the belief that surely her grandparents had remembered her on her special day. Finally, all the other grandchildren had received their lavish gifts, and Emma looked expectantly at Harold. He turned toward her, and I noticed something shift in his expression. Where there had been warmth and generosity for his other grandchildren, his face now showed only cold indifference. "What about Emma, Dad?" I prompted when he made no move to present my daughter with a gift. Harold shrugged dismissively. "She does not count as family," he said, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. The words hung in the air like poison. The backyard fell completely silent. Even Emma's friends, too young to fully understand the cruelty of the statement, sensed that something terrible had happened. Emma's face crumpled. Her eyes filling with tears she struggled valiantly to contain. "What do you mean, Grandpa?" she asked in a small voice. Before Harold could respond, Martha stepped forward, a small, plainly wrapped package in hand. "Here, Emma," she said weakly, not meeting anyone's eyes. "This is from Grandpa and me." Emma took the package with trembling hands and carefully opened it. Inside was a generic coloring book and a box of 8 crayons, the kind given away free at restaurants. It was clear the gift had been purchased as an afterthought, possibly on the way to the party. "Thank you," Emma whispered, her voice breaking slightly. I felt a rage building inside me, unlike anything I had ever experienced. The blatant favoritism had finally crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. My daughter, my beautiful, brilliant, kind daughter, had been publicly declared not family by her own grandfather. Around us, the other parents were exchanging uncomfortable glances. Patricia had moved closer, ready to intervene if needed. Rebecca's face showed a combination of shock and fury that matched my own feelings. What made the situation even more appalling was that no one in my family seemed troubled by Harold's statement or the disparity in gifts. Martha looked away, focusing on helping Tyler and Zoe with their new iPads. Diane and Michael were already discussing how their children would spend their cash. Robert and Nancy at least had the decency to look embarrassed, but made no move to address the situation. Emma, meanwhile, was trying so hard to be brave, clutching her coloring book to her chest and fighting back tears. But I could see the hurt in her eyes, the confusion and pain caused by her grandfather's casual cruelty. In that moment, something inside me broke and reformed. Years of accepting disrespect, of making excuses for my family's behavior, of hoping things would somehow improve, all fell away. What remained was a crystal-clear understanding. This would never stop unless I stopped it. I stood up and held out my hand to Emma. "Come on, sweetheart," I said gently. Emma looked up at me, confusion mingling with relief in her tear-filled eyes. She placed her small hand in mine and rose from her chair. "Frank, we have not done cake yet," Martha protested weakly. I turned to face my family, keeping my voice level for Emma's sake. "I think we are done here," I said. "Emma and I will be leaving now." "Leaving?" Harold scoffed. "This is her party. Do not be dramatic, Frank. You always were too sensitive." Yes, it is her party, I agreed. A party where she was just told she does not count as family. We are going somewhere she is appreciated. Harold's face darkened with anger. Now listen here, boy, he began, using the diminutive term he had always employed when putting me in my place. No, you listen, I interrupted, surprising even myself with my firmness. We are leaving. The rest of you can stay or go. It makes no difference to me. Diane stepped forward, her expression incredulous. You cannot be serious. Dad was just being honest. Emma is from your failed marriage. The rest of the grandchildren come from stable, traditional families. I stared at my sister, momentarily speechless at her twisted logic. Rather than engage, I turned to Emma's friends and their parents. Thank you all for coming to celebrate with Emma. I apologize for the disruption. Please enjoy the cake and activities for as long as you would like. Patricia knows where everything is. Patricia nodded, moving to my side. I will handle things here, she assured me. Take care of Emma. With a final nod to Rebecca, who mouthed, Call me later with worry in her eyes. I led Emma through the side gate and into the house, away from the family who had just shattered her birthday. Once inside, I guided Emma to the living room sofa and knelt before her. Her cheeks were wet with silent tears, her small hands still clutching the coloring book as if it might somehow transform into something more meaningful if she held it tightly enough. I am sorry, Dad, she whispered, breaking my heart further. I did something wrong, did not I? That is why Grandpa does not think I am family. No, sweetheart, I said firmly, taking her hands in mine. You did absolutely nothing wrong. Nothing. This is about Grandpa's problems, not yours. She looked at me doubtfully, but everyone else got iPads and money. I only got this. She held up the coloring book. I know, and that was very wrong of Grandpa. What he did says everything about him and nothing about you. I struggled to find words that would make sense to an 8-year-old. Some people, even adults, even grandparents, do not know how to love properly. They put conditions on love, or only give it to certain people. But why does not he love me? Her voice was so small, so confused. I pulled her into a gentle hug. Grandpa has never been good at loving people for who they are. He only knows how to love people who do exactly what he wants or who make him look good. I grew up with that, and it hurt me too. Emma pulled back, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. You did? Grandpa was mean to you too? Yes, he was. And I kept hoping he would change, that he would see what an amazing granddaughter he has in you. But today showed me that he is not willing to change. Through the window, we could see guests beginning to leave the backyard. Patricia was handling the departures with grace, while Rebecca appeared to be having a heated conversation with Martha near the cake table. What happens now? Emma asked, her practical nature asserting itself even in distress. Now, we are going to have our own celebration, I declared, making an instant decision. Get your jacket. We are going to your favorite science museum, and then for ice cream, and then to that bookstore you love. A tentative smile appeared on her face. Really? Right now? Right now, I confirmed. Go wash your face and get ready for adventure. As Emma ran upstairs, my phone began buzzing with messages. I ignored them all, focusing instead on grabbing my wallet and car keys. Whatever fallout was occurring in the backyard could wait. My priority was Emma's well-being. We slipped out through the front door just as I heard raised voices coming from the backyard. I quickly secured Emma in the backseat of my car and drove away, watching the rearview mirror until our house disappeared from sight. At the Science Museum, Emma gradually regained her spirits as we explored interactive exhibits about astronomy and physics. By the time we reached the ice cream shop 2 hours later, she was enthusiastically explaining black holes to me, as if the earlier trauma had been temporarily forgotten. Over massive ice cream sundaes, I made her a promise. Emma, I want you to know something important. You are the most valuable person in my life, and I will always protect you. From now on, things are going to be different with Grandpa and the rest of that side of the family. She considered this while licking hot fudge from her spoon. Different how? We are going to spend time with people who truly care about us, I explained. People who show love through actions, not just when it is convenient. Like Mom and Patricia and my friends, she suggested. Exactly like them, I agreed. And maybe someday Grandpa and the others will learn how to be better family members. But until then, we are not going to let them hurt you anymore. She nodded thoughtfully. I wish they loved me, but I think I understand. A pause. Dad, can we still go to the bookstore? I want to get a book about the solar system to replace my coloring book. Her resilience amazed me. Absolutely. And you can pick out whatever books you want. By the time we returned home at 8 that evening, the house was empty and clean. Patricia had texted that she and Rebecca had handled everything, including putting Emma's gifts from her friends in her bedroom. According to Rebecca's message, my family had left shortly after our departure, but not before Harold had declared me ungrateful and dramatic. Once Emma was tucked into bed with her new books, I sat alone in my home office, staring at my phone. There were 27 missed calls and 42 text messages. Most were from my mother and sister, with a few from Robert. My father, predictably, had not deigned to contact me directly. I scrolled through the texts. From Martha. Frank, please call me. Your father did not mean what he said. Come back so we can sing happy birthday. From Diane. Way to ruin a family gathering, always making everything about you. Call me as soon as possible. From Robert. Dad is furious. Says you embarrassed him in front of strangers. Mom is upset. Call when you can. More recent messages showed escalating concern about my whereabouts, followed by anger when I did not respond. From Diane. Ignoring us is childish. We are family whether you like it or not. From Martha. Please just let us know you and Emma are safe. The last text, from Robert, gave me pause. Dad says to remind you who has been helping you all these years. Says to remember your place in this family. My place in this family. The phrase echoed in my mind, bringing with it a flood of memories. Being excluded from father-son activities. Watching Diane and Robert receive lavish gifts while I received practical necessities. Being told repeatedly that my choices were disappointing. And now they were doing the same to my daughter. I leaned back in my chair and took a deep breath. Then I opened my laptop and began compiling a list of every financial arrangement between myself and my family members. The SUV in my name that Diane drove. The monthly supplements to Robert's mortgage. The maintenance services I paid for at my parents' vacation home. The credit cards I had authorized for emergency use that had somehow become their regular spending accounts. It was time to redefine my place in this family. As I worked through the night, systematically planning how to extricate myself from these financial entanglements, I felt a strange sense of calm. The decision, once made, seemed obvious and long overdue. My family had taken my support for granted, while continuing to treat me and my daughter as lesser members of the family. That ended now. At midnight, my phone rang again. This time it was Patricia. How is Emma? She asked when I answered. Asleep with new books. She is resilient, but this hit her hard. And how are you? I paused, considering the question. I am done, I finally said. Done pretending this is normal. Done enabling their behavior with my money. Done hoping for change. It is about time, Patricia replied, her voice gentle but firm. What they did today was unforgivable. I know, and I let it go on too long. You were trying to give Emma a chance to know her extended family. That is not wrong, Frank, but now you know where they stand. I do, I agreed, and now they are going to find out where I stand. After we hung up, I returned to my laptop, finalizing my plan for financial separation from my family. By 3 in the morning, I had drafted emails to banks, service providers, and my lawyer, all set to be sent first thing in the morning. Before heading to bed, I looked in on Emma. She was sleeping peacefully, her new astronomy book still clutched in her hands. In sleep, her face showed no trace of the hurt she had experienced earlier. I gently removed the book and tucked her blanket more securely around her shoulders. Things will be better now, I whispered. I promise. I woke at 6 after just a few hours of sleep, my resolve only strengthened by rest. Emma was still sleeping soundly, exhausted from the emotional roller coaster of the previous day. I decided to let her sleep in. a rare weekend luxury that she deserved. Sitting at my kitchen table with coffee, I opened my laptop and began executing the plan I had formulated overnight. The first step was to send an email to my bank, requesting immediate cancellation of all authorized user credit cards connected to my accounts. Diane, Robert, and my parents each had cards for emergencies that had morphed into regular spending vehicles for restaurants, clothing, and entertainment. No more. Next, I called the bank's 24-hour customer service line to place a temporary freeze on my accounts. The representative seemed concerned when I explained that multiple people had access to my banking information and that I feared unauthorized transactions. "We can certainly help secure your accounts, Mr. Williams," she assured me. "Would you like to change all your passwords and security questions as well?" "Yes, please," I confirmed, "and I would like to be notified of any attempted transactions over $100. With my immediate finances secured, I moved on to the SUV. Diane had been driving a luxury SUV registered and insured in my name for nearly 3 years. What had started as a temporary arrangement during their financial difficulties had become permanent, with me paying nearly $800 monthly for a vehicle I never used. I called the leasing company as soon as they opened at 8. "I would like to terminate the lease on the vehicle," I explained to the representative. "There will be an early termination fee of $3,000, sir," she warned. "That is fine," I replied, realizing how accustomed I had become to spending large sums on my family's behalf. "I would also like to arrange for the vehicle to be picked up. We can schedule a pickup with 48 hours' notice. Where is the vehicle currently located?" I gave them Diane's address, then added, "The current driver is not the leaseholder. I am. They may not be cooperative about returning the vehicle." "Not a problem, sir. As the legal leaseholder, you have the right to terminate the agreement. We can work with our recovery department if needed." Next came the mortgage supplement for Robert. Each month, I automatically transferred $2,000 to help cover his family's housing costs after he had overextended himself on a large home to keep up with Diane. I logged into my bank account and canceled the recurring transfer, then sent an email to my brother. "Robert, effective immediately, I am ending the monthly support for your mortgage. This decision is not negotiable. Frank, brief and to the point." I did not owe him a lengthy explanation. The maintenance services for my parents' vacation home were next. I had been paying for lawn care, pool maintenance, security monitoring, and quarterly cleaning for a property they visited perhaps 3 times a year. I spent an hour calling each service provider to cancel the contracts and remove my payment information from their systems. By 10 o'clock, Emma wandered downstairs in her pajamas, looking sleepy but calmer than she had been the previous evening. "Good morning, Dad," she said, climbing onto a kitchen stool. "What are you doing?" "Just taking care of some adult business," I replied, closing my laptop. "How about chocolate chip pancakes for breakfast?" "Yes, please." Her face brightened, and I was grateful for the resilience of children. As I mixed pancake batter, my phone began ringing incessantly. I glanced at the screen and saw Diane's name flashing. Ignoring the call, I returned to cooking breakfast. The phone immediately rang again. This time, it was Robert. Again, I let it go to voicemail. When it rang a third time with my father's name displayed, I silenced the device entirely and placed it face down on the counter. "Is that Grandpa calling?" Emma asked, her voice small. "Yes, but this is our special breakfast time," I said lightly. "Calls can wait." We enjoyed our pancakes together, deliberately avoiding mention of yesterday's events. Instead, Emma enthusiastically described the new books we had purchased and her plans to create a more detailed solar system model using the information she had learned. After breakfast, I suggested we go to the park. Getting out of the house seemed wise, given the likelihood of family members showing up at my door once they realized what I had done. Emma readily agreed, and we spent the morning throwing a frisbee and feeding ducks at the local park. When we returned home at noon, my phone showed 43 missed calls and 68 text messages. A quick scan revealed increasingly panicked and angry communications from my family. From Diane. The car leasing company called. "What have you done?" From Robert. "The bank says the transfer failed. We need that money for the mortgage, Frank. Fix this immediately." From Martha. "The pool service came and said they were canceled. Please call me, Frank. Your father is beside himself. From Harold. Call me now. This childish behavior ends immediately. I set the phone aside without responding and fixed lunch for Emma. As we were finishing our sandwiches, the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I could see my father standing on the porch, his face flushed with anger. Stay here, Emma, I instructed calmly. I need to talk to Grandpa alone. I stepped onto the porch, closing the door behind me to shield Emma from whatever confrontation was about to occur. What the hell do you think you are doing? Harold demanded without preamble, his voice raised and face contorted with rage. I am making some long overdue changes, I replied evenly. You canceled Diane's car? Stopped Robert's mortgage payment? Cut off all the services at our vacation home? He was practically shouting now. After everything we have done for you? I regarded him steadily. After everything you have done for me? Like what exactly? Consistently treating me as less valuable than my siblings? Publicly humiliating my daughter at her birthday party? Declaring that she is not family? That was taken out of context, he blustered, though we both knew it was not. You are overreacting, as usual. No, Dad. For once I am reacting appropriately. You have made it clear where Emma stands in your estimation, and by extension where I stand. I am simply adjusting my financial commitments to reflect that reality. He switched tactics, his voice becoming threatening. You would not have your fancy IT business without the connections I gave you. This was a blatant lie. Harold had never supported my career and had provided no business connections whatsoever. I had built my consulting firm through hard work and my own professional network. That is factually untrue, I stated calmly. But regardless, my business decisions are my own, just as your treatment of Emma was your choice. This is about money, is not it? He sneered. You want more from us, is that it? The accusation was so absurd that I almost laughed. No, Dad, this is about respect and basic human decency, neither of which you showed to Emma yesterday. She is just a child. She will get over it. His dismissive attitude only reinforced my resolve. Yes, she is a child. A child who deserves better than to be told by her grandfather that she does not count as family. A child I will protect from further emotional harm, even if that means distancing her from you. Harold's face darkened. You cannot keep her from us. We are her grandparents. I am not keeping her from anyone, I clarified. I am simply refusing to subsidize people who hurt her. If you want a relationship with Emma, you will need to earn it through consistent, respectful behavior. And you will need to do it without my financial support. This is ridiculous, he sputtered. I will not be dictated to by my own son. Then we have nothing more to discuss, I concluded, turning to go back inside. Wait, he called, his tone suddenly less certain. We need to talk about this reasonably, Frank. The family needs your help. I paused with my hand on the doorknob. That is the first honest thing you have said today, Dad. Yes, the family does need my help, apparently quite desperately. But I do not need the family, at least not the way it currently functions. What does that mean? It means I am done being the financial safety net for people who do not respect me or my daughter. If you want things to change, start by offering Emma a sincere apology and demonstrating consistent, loving behavior toward her. Until then, you are on your own financially. I did not wait for his response before entering the house and locking the door behind me. Through the window, I watched him stand there for several moments, seeming unsure what to do, before finally returning to his car and driving away. Inside, Emma was sitting on the stairs, her expression worried. Was Grandpa angry? She asked. I sat beside her and put my arm around her shoulders. He was, but not at you. He is upset about some changes I am making. What changes? I considered how to explain the situation in terms she would understand. You know how we have talked about how actions have consequences, right? She nodded solemnly. Well, Grandpa and the others have not been treating us kindly, and now there are consequences. I've been helping them with money for a long time, and I have decided to stop doing that, because they were mean to me. Her perceptiveness always surprised me, partly because of that, yes, but also because it is not healthy for any of us to continue this way. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do for people is to stop enabling behavior that hurts themselves and others. She seemed to ponder this for a moment. Like when Miss Johnson would not help Tyler with math anymore because he kept copying answers instead of learning. That is an excellent comparison, I agreed, impressed by her insight. Miss Johnson wanted Tyler to learn, so she stopped making it easy for him to avoid learning. And you want Grandpa and the others to learn to be nicer? Exactly. I hugged her close. You are very smart, you know that? She smiled, some of the worry leaving her face. Can we work on my new solar system model now? Absolutely, I agreed, grateful for her ability to focus on positive activities. As we spent the afternoon working on her project, my phone continued to buzz with messages and calls. I checked periodically to ensure nothing truly urgent was occurring, but otherwise ignored the communications. Most were variations on themes already established. Anger, disbelief, demands that I fix the situation immediately, and, increasingly, offers to talk things through as the financial reality of my decision sank in. By evening, a new message from Robert caught my attention. Frank, I understand you are upset about what happened at the party, but my mortgage payment is due in 3 days, and without your help, we might lose the house. Can we please discuss this like adults? For the first time, I detected a note of genuine concern rather than entitlement in his message. I decided to respond briefly. I am sorry about your financial situation, Robert. I suggest speaking with your bank about refinancing options or possibly downsizing to a more affordable home. It was not unkind, but it was firm. I was no longer available to solve their financial problems. Later, as I was tucking Emma into bed, she asked a question that revealed she had been thinking deeply about the situation. Dad, will we ever see Grandpa and Grandma again? That depends on them, I answered honestly. If they can learn to treat us with respect and love, then yes. If not, then we will focus on the people who do love us properly. I hope they learn, she said simply, before yawning and snuggling deeper under her covers. Me too, sweetheart, I whispered, though I was far from certain it would happen. As I closed her door and headed downstairs, I felt a strange mixture of sadness and liberation. The family dynamics I had accepted as normal for so long were finally being challenged, and while the process was painful, it was also necessary. I made myself a cup of tea and sat at my kitchen table, reflecting on the day's events. The initial shock and anger from my family would likely transition to bargaining soon, followed perhaps by a realization that their financial dependence on me had ended. What came after that would be their choice. My phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. How are you holding up? Need backup? We are okay, I replied. Thanks for handling things yesterday. Emma is resilient, and I am finally setting boundaries that should have been established years ago. Proud of you, came her response. This was a long time coming. Indeed it was, I thought, as I sipped my tea. A lifetime of accepting disrespect had ended in a single day, catalyzed by my father's callous treatment of my daughter. In hurting Emma, he had inadvertently freed me from patterns that had constrained my life for decades. Tomorrow would bring new challenges as the family adjusted to their changed circumstances. There would be more angry calls, possibly even threats or attempts at manipulation. But for the first time in my adult life, I felt completely clear about my priorities and boundaries. Emma deserved better than what my family had offered her, and so did I. The financial fallout began at dawn the following day. My phone rang at 6:15 with a call from Diane. The car is gone, she said without greeting when I answered. They towed it at 5:30 this morning. How am I supposed to get the kids to school? Good morning to you too, Diane, I replied calmly. I canceled the lease yesterday. The car was in my name, and I was paying for it. But we need that car. Her voice rose hysterically. Michael needs to take Lily to her dance recital today, and Mason has tennis practice. I suggest calling an Uber or renting a vehicle, I said. Or perhaps buying a car you can actually afford. We cannot afford another car right now. You know that. Then perhaps it is time to reevaluate your spending priorities, I suggested. Most families manage to live within their means, without relying on siblings to subsidize their lifestyle. She made a sound of pure frustration. This is about yesterday, is not it? You are punishing us because Dad hurt Emma's feelings. This is about years of disrespect and entitlement, I corrected her. Yesterday was simply the final straw, and Dad did not hurt Emma's feelings, Diane. He publicly declared that she is not family. There is a significant difference. He did not mean it literally, she protested weakly. He did, and you know it. But regardless, I am no longer willing to finance a family that treats my daughter and me as afterthoughts. What about Mom and Dad's pool service, and the lawn care, and the security system? They got cancellation notices for everything. They can set up their own service contracts, I pointed out. They own a vacation home they rarely use. Surely they can afford to maintain it. Dad is furious, she warned, as if this might change my mind. He says you will regret this. I doubt that very much, I replied. In fact, I already feel better than I have in years. Goodbye, Diane. I ended the call and turned to see Emma standing in the doorway, still in her pajamas, watching me with solemn eyes. Is Aunt Diane mad about the car? She asked. Yes, she is, I admitted, seeing no reason to shield Emma from the truth. But that is her problem to solve, not ours. She nodded thoughtfully. Dad, can we have pancakes again? With blueberries this time? Her ability to focus on the simple pleasures of life despite the family drama was refreshing. Blueberry pancakes coming right up, I promised. While we ate breakfast, my phone continued to light up with messages. Robert reported that his credit card had been declined at the grocery store. My mother left a tearful voicemail about the canceled housekeeping service. My father sent a terse text stating that we would discuss this matter at his office on Monday. I deleted his message without responding. I had no intention of meeting him on his turf, where he could attempt to reassert control. By mid-morning, the tone of the messages began to shift. Robert sent a more conciliatory text. Frank, I understand you are upset. Can we talk about this? Maybe we can find a compromise. Diane, too, softened her approach. I am sorry about yesterday. Dad was out of line. But please reconsider the car situation. We are really stuck without it. Even my mother attempted an apology of sorts. Frank, dear, I should have said something when your father spoke to Emma that way. I feel terrible. Please call me so we can make this right. Notably absent was any communication from my father expressing genuine remorse. I responded only to my mother. I appreciate your acknowledgement, Mom. But making this right will require more than words. It will take consistent changes in behavior from everyone, starting with Dad. At noon, the doorbell rang. When I opened it, I was surprised to find Robert standing on my porch, looking uncomfortable. Can we talk? He asked, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. I hesitated, then stepped aside to let him in. Emma is in the backyard working on her science project. We can talk in the kitchen. Once seated at the kitchen table, Robert ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture he had had since childhood. Frank, this situation is getting out of hand. Dad is threatening to disown you. I could not help but laugh. Disown me? From what? I have been financially independent since college. Unlike you and Diane, I have never relied on Dad's money or connections. Robert had the grace to look embarrassed. It is not just about money, it is about family. Exactly, I agreed. It is about family. And yesterday, Dad made it explicitly clear that my daughter is not considered part of this family. So tell me, Robert, why should I continue supporting a family that rejects my child? He did not mean it that way, Robert protested. But the excuse sounded hollow even to his own ears. How exactly did he mean it then? I challenged. Please explain to me the benign interpretation of, she does not count as family. Robert stared at the table, unable to provide an answer. The truth, I continued more gently, is that Dad has always played favorites. He did it with us growing up, and now he is doing it with the grandchildren. The difference is that I am no longer willing to finance this dysfunctional dynamic. But my mortgage payment, Robert began, is your responsibility? I finished for him. Robert, you chose to buy a house you could not afford because you wanted to compete with Diane's lifestyle. That was your decision, not mine. So you are just cutting us all off? Just like that? Yes, I confirmed. Just like that. Because sometimes dramatic change is the only way to break unhealthy patterns. I have enabled this situation for too long by paying for everyone's excesses while accepting disrespect and dismissal in return. Robert was quiet for a moment, then asked, "What would it take to fix this?" It was the first genuine question anyone in my family had asked since this began. "It would take real change," I replied honestly, starting with a sincere apology to Emma from everyone, especially Dad, followed by consistent, respectful behavior toward both of us, and a recognition that financial support from me is no longer part of the equation. "Dad will never apologize," Robert said, stating what we both knew to be true. "Then Dad will never have a relationship with his granddaughter," I replied simply, "or with me. That is his choice." Our conversation was interrupted by Emma coming in from the backyard, her face brightening when she saw her uncle. "Uncle Robert, do you want to see my solar system model?" Robert looked at me uncertainly, then smiled at Emma. "I would love to, Emma." I watched as she eagerly showed him the detailed model she had been working on, explaining each planet's characteristics with impressive knowledge for an 8-year-old. To his credit, Robert listened attentively, asking questions and showing genuine interest in her project. When Emma returned to the backyard to continue working, Robert turned to me with a troubled expression. "She is a great kid, Frank. Smart as a whip." "Yes, she is," I agreed. "And she deserves better than what this family has given her." Robert nodded slowly. "I will talk to Dad," he promised as he prepared to leave, "though I cannot promise it will make any difference." "I appreciate the effort," I said sincerely, "but I am not holding my breath." The next few days brought escalating attempts at contact from my family. My mother left tearful voicemails. Diane fluctuated between anger and pleading. Robert provided updates on my father's stubborn refusal to acknowledge any wrongdoing. Through it all, I maintained my position. I responded politely but firmly to messages, reiterating that my financial support had ended permanently and that any future relationship would depend on how they treated Emma. A week after the birthday party incident, my father finally contacted me directly. His message was typically imperious. "This has gone on long enough. Bring Emma to dinner on Sunday. We will put this nonsense behind us." No apology, no acknowledgement of his behavior, just an expectation that I would fall in line as I always had before. I replied with a single sentence: "We will not be attending." 2 more weeks passed. The mortgage payment came due for Robert, who was forced to negotiate with his bank for a modification. Diane and Michael had to downsize from their luxury SUV to a used sedan. My parents received a notice from their homeowners association about the untended lawn at their vacation property. Real-world consequences were finally impacting a family that had insulated itself from financial reality through my support. Then, a month after Emma's birthday, something unexpected happened. My mother arrived at my door alone, looking tired but determined. "May I speak with Emma?" she requested after I invited her in. "That depends on what you intend to say," I replied cautiously. "I want to apologize," she said, meeting my eyes directly. "Properly apologize. For my behavior and for not standing up for her." I considered her request, then called Emma from her room. My daughter approached warily, staying close to my side as she greeted her grandmother. Martha knelt down to Emma's level, something I had never seen her do before. "Emma, I am very sorry for what happened at your birthday party," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I should have spoken up when your grandfather said that terrible thing, and I should have made sure you received gifts as special as your cousins. What we did was wrong and hurtful, and you did not deserve any of it." Emma listened solemnly, then asked with the directness of childhood, "Why did not you stop him?" Martha's eyes filled with tears. "Because I have spent my whole life not stopping him, and that was my mistake. But I am trying to be braver now." It was perhaps the most honest thing I had ever heard my mother say. Emma, with her innate compassion, stepped forward and gave Martha a tentative hug. "It is okay, Grandma. People make mistakes." After Emma returned to her room, Martha and I talked for over an hour. She revealed that my father's behavior had worsened since I cut off financial support, but that it had also sparked something unexpected: rebellion among the ranks. Diane and Robert, faced with financial reality for the first time in years, were questioning the family dynamic that had seemed normal for so long. "Your father still refuses to acknowledge he did anything wrong," Martha admitted. "But the rest of us are starting to see things differently." "That is a start," I acknowledged. 2 months after the birthday incident, a tentative new family pattern began to emerge. My mother visited regularly, always bringing thoughtful gifts for Emma that showed she was paying attention to my daughter's interests. Robert and his family joined us for a science museum outing, where his children interacted with Emma as an equal for the first time. Even Diane made halting efforts at reconciliation, though she struggled the most with the new financial reality. My father remained the lone holdout, refusing any contact that might imply he had been wrong. I maintained my boundary firmly, making it clear that he was welcome in our lives only if he could acknowledge his behavior and treat Emma with the respect she deserved. 6 months after the birthday party, we held a small celebration for Emma's half-birthday. Present were my mother, Robert and his family, and even Diane with her children. The dynamic was different now. No one expected lavish gifts or special treatment. The children played together without the previous hierarchy, and the adults engaged in genuine conversation rather than status comparisons. My father's absence was noticeable but necessary. According to Martha, he still refused to give in, seeing any apology as a weakness rather than a strength. A year passed. Emma turned 9 at a joyful party attended by friends and family members who had earned their place in our lives through consistent, respectful behavior. My business thrived, and I established a college fund for Emma that would ensure her education regardless of any future family dynamics. The lesson I hoped to impart to my daughter through all of this was simple but profound. Your worth is not determined by others' ability to recognize it. You deserve respect simply for being who you are. And sometimes the bravest, most loving thing you can do is set boundaries with those who cannot or will not value you properly. As I watched Emma blow out her 9 candles, surrounded by people who genuinely celebrated her existence, I knew that the painful decisions of the previous year had been absolutely right. We had lost a grandfather, but gained a healthier extended family. We had sacrificed toxic connections but strengthened meaningful ones. Most importantly, Emma had learned through my actions, not just my words, that she was worth standing up for, that she deserved to be treated with dignity and love, and that her place in the world was not contingent on anyone else's approval. That knowledge was worth more than all the iPads and cash envelopes in the world. What about you? Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members to protect yourself or someone you love? Please share your experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, consider hitting like and subscribe to support more content like this. Remember, sometimes the family we choose is more important than the family we are born into. Thank you for listening to my story, and I wish you strength in your own journey toward healthy relationships.